My name is Ben Azoulay, known as King Azoulay.
Because a lot of people constantly think it's only happening to me, and then they ask God, why is it happening to me? Because if we truly think about it, we came here with nothing, we leave here with nothing.
We know what we want in life, we go out there and we get it.
As I'm leaving the office, another guy comes in, looks at me, recognizes me, goes back to the office, and tells that guy, do not hire him. He's a trouble.
King Ben, it is so great to have you on the $1 Million Branders podcast. Thank you so much for your time and for being here. I'm going to say Prince Ben before you became King Ben Azoulay. What
Okay, we're live.
King Ben, it is so great to have you on the $1 Million Branders podcast. Thank you so much for your time and for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
This is going to be an exciting one.
Hell yes.
I can feel it.
It will be. It will be. It's going to be fire. So, guys, I met Ben through actually social media. His content is amazing. But besides from that, I wanted to make an introduction, but I think he tells the story best. So quick introduction. It actually deserves a book, I think, or a novel, which I know he's working on a movie in the background, but Ben Azoulay's journey is a remarkable tale of resilience and innovation. At the young age of 21, Ben achieved the status of a multimillionaire by inventing a groundbreaking product, which he then successfully sold to one of the largest medical corporations in the industry. This monumental success led to his early retirement at only age 24, guys. Ben's early years were characterized by a transcendental upbringing, starting in Los Angeles, then moving to Israel, then returning to Los Angeles at 3 for his brother's birth. And this pattern of relocation between Israel and Los Angeles continued until he permanently settled in Los Angeles at the age of 10. Despite a challenging period that saw him leaving jail at 19, Ben's indomitable spirit led him to start his own business. His entrepreneurial journey and spirit didn't stop there, and he soon ventured into the world of venture capitalism, which I know was a dream of yours, Ben. Alongside his business ventures, Ben passionately pursued bodybuilding, which I love because that is my background, nurturing his dream well into his adult years. His early 20s were marked by his involvement in underground fighting. So think Fight Club, that's what I think. A testament to physical prowess and fighting spirit. Although he ultimately decided not to continue into the UFC, although Ben, I have to say you would have been an awesome brand for the UFC. But your story is one of constant evolution, overcoming challenges and pursuing diverse passions with relentless dedication. And without further ado, I think you tell the story best. So let's rewind to your childhood days. I'm going to say Prince Ben before you became King Ben Azoulay. What characteristics or experiences stand out to you, and what inspired you to start your entrepreneurial journey, to start your own business? Like, give us a bit of background for people who haven't heard you but should know you.
Truly, I mean, first of all, thank you for having me here. And I love talking about my background because it was something that I've never truly opened to the people in the past. And I've been only newly open to speaking about how it was for me growing up, how it was going through different challenges and getting to a place where I am today. And I realized that there's a lot of people that are going through these struggles. And that's why I wanted to speak out so people could hear, hey, I'm not the only person who's going through this, right? Because a lot of people constantly think it's only happening to me. And then they ask God, why is it happening to me? But this is about having life. When you live life, you understand that life is ups and downs. And being up and down doesn't mean that you're actually dying when something really bad is happening. It's just all in your mind. Because if you truly think about it, we came here with nothing, we leave here with nothing. So everything we have is borrowed. Everything we have is just to use for now. So if we lose something, we didn't truly lose it. If we gain it, we didn't truly gain it. But it's nice to use it while we have it. But if we lose it, it's completely fine because it wasn't ours in the first place. So I think if people will look at it from that perspective, they'll understand that, okay, life is like a video game. And the biggest thing is just beating the video game. Well, at some point in time as a young child, I thought beating the video game was becoming successful. Within time, I realized beating the video game is creating an impact on the most amount of people. So the more people you create an impact in their life, and a positive impact, not a negative, but a positive,
Absolutely.
you'll find yourself doing better in life. Because also becoming successful is about hard work, but continuously working. That's why you have the law of incremental movements, where you have little tiny increments that you're putting in, and the law of accumulation will slowly build up to something big. But it starts with little tiny increments and movements forward, and eventually it turns into something large. But a lot of people want to do something now and quit tomorrow and believe, just like taking the magic pill and becoming a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
There is no magic pill. There is, there's nothing that you could take that tomorrow you're going to look like me from someone who's never worked out. There's nothing. Anybody with a big wallet would be buying these things and just turning into Superman. So it's the same thing with success. And if you go towards success and not thinking back, just looking forward, you'll eventually achieve it. And it really doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what your circumstances are. If you come from a poor family, you come from a wealthy family. If you're a hardworking person, you will achieve anything in life. And I believe that if you do it with a good heart, you'll achieve even more.
I love it. You've really, and for those of you who don't know, I've never actually told anyone I'm Jewish on this podcast, but I am. And it's just, I think the Israeli strength, the Israeli spirit and the soul, what they call a soul and a neshama, right? And that's something that I really, that's really something that I saw in you. But you didn't have the easiest childhood, and I know as an immigrant immigrating from South Africa to Australia, our journeys are very similar, but the thing that you did, like, you didn't let it break you. You actually let it, define you, make you better. And I know that you said you basically, if you don't know something, you'll work out how. So walk us through, what was school like for you, being in a new country? Your story is so interesting. And I know also the language, right? You had to learn English. You couldn't even speak a word of English.
Yeah, when I came to United States when I was born, my uncles at the time were kidnapped by Pablo Escobar. They were dealing with Pablo, and they were drug dealers. And obviously I wasn't born, and my family, my immediate family, which is like my mom, my dad, they didn't want anything to do with them. So when I was born here, that's exactly the time where my uncle was killed by Pablo Escobar's guys. And my mom went to see the body, but there wasn't any body. They came and they shot him like 2,000 bullets. So they found out that he was stealing from them. And then at that time, we went back to Israel. But we came back here so my mom could have my brother here. So we could both have American passports. My older sister was never born here. She was born in Israel. So she had to go through the process.
Yeah.
But for me and my brother, my mom said, you know what? I'll go through Mexico. I'll go through the hard time. I'll bring you guys here. I'll deliver you here just to make sure you'll be an American citizen.
Amazing woman.
But,
yes,
even at the age of 3.5, when I came here and I went to school wasn't really for me. They put me in kindergarten and I would constantly argue with everybody. Eventually, I think after like 2 months, the owner of the preschool or the kindergarten called my mom and said, Mrs. Azoulay, I need you to come over here. He gave her check back, said, here's your son. The son will never be good in any school. And that was the first time I heard right in front of me someone yelling and saying that I wasn't going to be anything. So at the age of 3.5, so we went back to Israel. And take this, like this picture, put this in your mind. Super, super light-skinned kid. I barely had eyebrows. I was so blonde. I had very long blonde hair. And I looked like a little girl. So growing up, everybody thought I was a girl. I wasn't a boy. So at the age of 3.5, going back to Israel, and the kids used to laugh at me all the time. They said, you're a girl, you're not a boy.
Wow.
But the teachers loved me in Israel, but the kids were very, very strongly bullying me. They didn't like me at all for some reason. I was like a pretty boy or a pretty girl. So at the age of 5, I found out that I truly like to be around animals way more than I like to be around humans. So I was around animals all the time. And at the age of 6, I found a very big snake. And that was my breaking point, is because I brought home a very large snake. It was a black snake, I would say about 2 meters long.
Wow.
And I was just a little boy, and I brought it to my mom, and I said, "Mom, look at this." And she kind of freaked out, but she knew that I could speak to animals. And I was just a different child. You know, people used to call me Dr. Doolittle in the neighborhood. And imagine, just 6 years old, you know, this kid could literally speak to animals. If there's a dog crying, I speak to him, and he feels much better for some reason.
Wow.
So I brought the snake home, and when my mom said, "Well, you should release him," we used to live in a place where behind me there was like a forest and fields. So I would go into the forest and disappear for 2 days at a time. So at the age of 6, my mom bought me a cell phone and said, "Well, you need to have this on you because I need to track you. I don't know where you're going to be. I don't know where you are. We're looking for you." You know, I wouldn't show up for 2 days, and it was because I was sleeping in the fields. And at night I would howl at, you know, the wolves. It was crazy, but that was me. I was like little Mowgli. So they used to call me Tarzan and Mowgli and all of that. And I was inspired by these movies to be just like them because I felt like we had a lot in common.
Yes.
When I went to take the snake back, there was a kid, his name was Oded, and he was about 17 years old. And he pushed me, and the snake fell out of my hand. And I got up to go get the snake, and he pushed me again, and he picked up a rock, and he threw the rock on the snake's head. And when you hit a snake, it starts to move his body and his tail very, very fast because his head, he's dying. And that's the time where I understood the difference between good and evil. Because to me, that snake was the most important thing at that moment, right? I loved animals. And this kid, Oded, which I'll never forget, he turned me from good to bad.
Wow.
So I was seeing the world out of, let's say, colorful sunglasses where everything was perfect and everything was beautiful, and I could speak to animals, and I didn't care about people. And then when he killed my snake, I lost it. That was when I turned into a whole different person. I was no longer this little sweet, blonde hair, kind little prince. I turned into an animal. And I said, whatever he did to my snake, I will do to him. And that's exactly what I did. A few days later, I waited for him. And when he walked, I came behind him and I hit him with a brick over the head. And when he fell on the floor, I hit him one more time. And I was 6, he was 17.
Wow.
And that was the first time I got interrogated by the police of what the hell does a 6-year-old have to do with a 17-year-old, and why did I crack open his head? That was like my first like thirst for blood and anger, you know? But
Wow.
before that, I was the sweetest little boy.
What a story.
And from there, I started, you know, growing up. My parents kind of started keeping me away from some of these kids in the neighborhood because I already saw things differently. I also realized that it doesn't matter how small you are, when you do something, people react differently. They no longer bullied me. So at the age of 8, we moved to Amsterdam. And in Amsterdam, I kind of went into this la la land again because you have rabbits everywhere, you have chickens, there was the parks. So my parents would take me there and I would go and play with the animals, and I felt free again. And then we went back to Israel, and then at the age of 10, they brought me to the United States. And that's like kind of when my life went into shit in my mind, obviously. Because we lived in Israel we had a 3-story house. We lived in a place where it was like farmland and forest behind me. And at the age of 10, they brought me here to live with my whole family in a 2-bedroom apartment and put me and my brother in the same bedroom. And my smart dad put 2 TVs in the bedrooms so we could both watch TV at the same time in different channels and keep putting up the volume and fight with one another.
Wow.
So it was like coming into a place where I had a 3-story house, I had land, I had everything. I also had many dogs. I had 19 dogs. I used to rescue dogs in Israel.
Wow, special.
Which was one of the reasons where I also lost my ability to bond with dogs. Although I do have dogs and I've had dogs, but when I was 10 and we wanted to come here, I had dogs and we were looking for homes for them. I didn't want to give them away. But the dogs that we couldn't find a home, we went to rich neighborhoods and we left them outside like a stray dog, so the rich people would find them and take them in. So coming to America, I didn't want to learn the language. I didn't want to be here. I kept saying, I want home. I want my animals. It was a very, very difficult time for me. And I started working out since I was 6 years old. Since that incident happened, I started working out a lot. And I've always been a happy kid. I've been, very, very hyper. I like to speak to everybody. I was always asking questions. I like to bounce around. I like to just move. And at the age of 6, I started working out really hard. And nobody understood why I'm doing push-ups, why am I doing sit-ups, why am I doing pull-ups, handstands. It didn't really, it wasn't understood by the people around me because nobody was doing that. It was only me. And about a year ago, I found out why I was doing it. But I didn't understand until I was 32 years old. Why the hell am I doing push-ups and trying to expand my body at the age of 6? It was like, what the hell was happening to me? Why do I have such strong ADD? Why was I jumping off the couches and being extremely hyper and didn't want to sit in class and just wanted to run in the fields and go up and climb the highest mountains or the highest, tallest trees and tallest buildings? And nobody understood why, and neither did I. And about a year ago, I understood exactly what happened.
What happened?
So I realized that some people are born with higher souls than their own bodies, because we are spiritual creatures and we live in a physical body. And that soul is sometimes so big that it's bigger than the body that you are given. And as humans, we don't know, but we receive from God a body and we receive a soul, and the soul and the body have to be business partner. And they have to coexist until you die. But your soul does not want to be stuck in a body. My soul felt claustrophobic. So my soul didn't want to be stuck in a body. And once I turned 32, I understood my soul was just higher than my own existing body, my existing being. So you have a soul that's higher than your body and also bigger. I felt claustrophobic. I constantly tried to expand my body to fit my soul inside. Then when I reached the age of 32, I got to 230 pounds of like solid muscle. And I realized I'm so comfortable at that weight. And all of a sudden I'm not being suffocated by my body, but my soul constantly wanted to leave my body. Wow. And that's why I was jumping all around. I was extremely hyper because my soul did not want to exist in a body. It felt like something was keeping it congested, like it was, my body was holding my soul back. My soul wanted to fly.
Yes.
My body couldn't.
Wow. And that's a really profound thought, because I believe what you're doing, you're building a legacy. And as you've said to me before, you've done everything, you've seen everything. So now you're back to help people. But you're such an incredible storyteller too. And I really appreciate you sharing that journey, because you've been through so much in your life, but you really have turned your adversity into advantage. And talking about a strong spirit, your strong spirit and what we're talking about now, your soul, your resilience and toughness are so notable. Your dad kicked you out. You were homeless at one stage. Could you tell us a little bit about the experiences that shaped the aspects of your personality? Like what made you, because I know you went into sales too, so I want to get into what made you start your own business? How did you get started with that?
So growing up, I think since I became like a super pretty boy at a young age, my mom loved me so much that it took a lot of love away from my dad and a lot of the attention away from my dad. So he couldn't stand me anymore. At that point in time, he would just treat me very bad all the time, whether it's to like push me around, kick me, yell at me, tell me that I wasn't going to be anything, that I'm ugly, that I'm nothing like him. And that's I'm talking about at the age of 6, 5. And growing up like that, with a lot of stress from my own dad, my dad waking up at 6 in the morning and coming, either throwing water in my face to wake up or yell at me or curse at me, it was a very difficult childhood, but I was somebody that was fighting back. I wasn't somebody who just stood quiet. I fought back. At the age of 13, I got into a fist fight with my dad and I left the house for the first time. At the age of 17, I realized that my dad is my biggest enemy and now I have to go and prove him that I'm going to be way better than him.
Wow.
But, when I got older, I went back and thought about, well, how was he raised? Well, the way he was raised was way worse than the way he raised me, which hurt him a lot. So he's not as powerful as I am of an individual. He never worked out in his life. He went more towards smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee, for 40 years, and that's all he did. He was a very good hustler, but at the same time, he never trained his body. He never trained his mental state to be stronger than everybody else's. You could put me in a hole. I've been in a hole for 2 weeks. I didn't know when I was going to come out. There was nothing that could stop me. I don't care if I'm going to die right now. So what could stop me? I don't praise death. I praise life. I'm all about living and enjoying life and helping others. But at the same time, my time will come at some point. It doesn't matter to me if it comes now or later. So I have no fear. I was diagnosed with no fear since I was like 6 years old. My parents took me to the doctor and they were like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Why is he like jumping up and down? First of all, why do we find him on the tallest building in our city, looking down and trying to do a handstand or holding himself on the edge of the damn building or trees, and go up to the tallest trees and hang from the top of the tree? If I fall down, I die. There wasn't any way to live after that. But in my mind, I didn't see any fear. So when my dad was being tough on me, at some point in time, I realized I wish he was even tougher, because I realized that that's where my power came from. When I go into the gym and I lift weights, well, if I'm going to bench press the same amount of weight for the next year, it's not going to do anything. The reason there is more weights to put on the bar is so it gets harder and harder and you get stronger and stronger. So if my dad was even worse with me, I would probably be even stronger because of the kind of soul that I am and the individual that I am. I'm the guy that fights back. I was not a survivor. I was a warrior. I didn't survive anything. Anyone who faced me, they were the survivors. My dad is a survivor because I could have taken him out any second. Yeah. I was the warrior. And he'll say that till today. He'll say, Ben could have taken me out any second. I was a very dangerous individual as a teenager. My mom went through cancer when I was 16. And at that point in time, I was ready to really go. So I was doing all these underground fights and I was fighting for the mafia and doing things that people can't dream of doing. And people called me like a menace to society because wherever I went, if somebody looked at me, I would say, hey, is there a problem? But if there is a problem, we'll solve it here. We're not going to talk about it later. We'll solve it right here, right now. And as a 16-year-old boy, fighting guys that are 25, 30, 35, 40, beating them up, and then them asking how old I am and me saying I'm 16, and then they all wanted to be my friends. So then I built like a huge community of men that were counting on me, although they were in their 40s. And they were like, wow, this is the kind of person we want next to us, because in 4 or 5 years, he's going to rule town.
Wow.
You know, at some point in time, the biggest mafia people had a hit on me because they said, that guy right there, that kid, is an extremely dangerous individual. He will rise, and when he rises, he's going to take us out. So for a while, I was like, well, I have to be homeless anyways because people are out to look, out looking for me. It is what it is. Let's see who finds who first. And that was my mentality. And I think that's the mentality that most men had back thousands of years ago.
Yes.
Right? People like Alexander the Great, he was 16 when he went to rule the world. He went and started battling to control the world. He won all the battles and was the king and crowned the king of the world. You have people like Genghis Khan, who killed 60 million people. Did he think I was going to stop at any point in time? No, he wanted to rule the world. You have a guy that nobody even talks about. He was a king from India. His name is Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. He was a king. He's more like me. I'm the guy that would never hurt someone who's a good person. But I'm the guy that will kindly and be more than happy to hurt someone who's a bad person who wants to hurt good people. So I'm more of a protector. There is good and there is bad in the world, of course. And a lot of people say, well, the world is the worst it's ever been. And I don't think so. I think the world is probably the best it's ever been. It's just the softest it's ever been. Because thousands of years ago, or hundreds of years ago, people were still fighting for land. And when they were fighting for land, they would come into a place, they would rape the women, they would kill the children, they would kill all the husbands, all the men, take everybody's resources and the land, and keep the women if they like them or kill them as well. If you said you're a witch, they used to burn you. So nowadays, you don't really have that. You have a once in a blue moon that something can happen like it did right now in Israel, but then you have people fighting back, right? Well, back in the day, they would take over all of Israel probably and would have done it to everybody.
Yes.
But here they had to stop because there is the whole world that's watching. If the whole world wasn't watching, things would end much, much, much differently. So I think the world became the easiest it's ever been. I just think men have to be more stoic. They have to be stronger. They have to be more powerful. They have to understand that this life is not just about having a good time and enjoying every single moment. This life is about beating yourself to the point that all the hardship becomes easy.
Yes.
And then you beat yourself some more, that's all. And do it with a smile on your face. That's what it takes to be a real man. A real man does not complain. And that's why a lot of women today can't find a good man, and a man that they want to be with is because they are dating men and they figure out after a very short amount of time that they're dating a girlfriend. Because the man complains now more than the women. We know due to birth and things like that, women can tolerate way more pain than men. We know that. We couldn't tolerate the kind of that you guys could.
But what I want to talk about, there's a lot of entrepreneurs who are starting their journey. Speak a little bit about how you started your business.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay. So Ben, going back to entrepreneurship, how did you start your business journey?
All right. So at some point in time after being homeless, and I turned, to a point where I had nothing and nothing to lose, I started to work for somebody. Then when I worked as a dispatcher. And a very short amount of time after that, a couple of weeks after that, I said, you know what, I can't do this. I want to do something that's better. And I went into carpet cleaning. After going into carpet cleaning, I went back to kind of being a little bit of a troublemaker. And then I found myself at the age of 18 going to jail. When I was in jail, I realized that everybody in the jail liked me so much. And I didn't understand why. So in jail, you have like sections. There is the paisas, which are the guys who doesn't speak any English. They only speak Spanish.
Yeah.
There's like the Serenios, which are the Hispanic guys. There's the white people. There's the blacks. There's the Asian. So anyone that's other, like me, I'm Jewish, I go with the blacks. The blacks will take me in. And when they did, and I was with the blacks, then I got them to start doing little prayers with me in Hebrew.
Oh.
I brought the rabbi, and the rabbi would bring me my tefillin, and I would ask the rabbi to do for us Shabbat dinners.
Oh, wow.
And then I started getting them to wear a yarmulke and doing Shabbat dinners with me and start practicing Judaism.
Wow.
And take in consideration, I'm an 18-year-old boy that's teaching right now 40, 50-year-old men who are huge troublemakers, who have been there for 10, 15 years, who will never see the daylight for the rest of their life, go into Judaism. And then I realized that I actually have very, very good social skills. So before going out, I said to myself, I'm never coming back here. And when I went back to see the judge, she said, look, I'm going to let you out today, but I never want to see you back here, ever.
Wow.
And I said, you'll never see me back here again. And my mom and my dad picked me up when I got released. And my dad was eating ice cream. It was the first ice cream I had in a very long time.
Wow.
It was the best ice cream I've ever had. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start looking into working a real job. And I went and grabbed the Israeli newspaper. In LA, all the Israelis work together.
Yes.
So I grabbed the Israeli newspaper and I started calling companies. And I said, I'd like to come meet with you and I'd like to work as a salesperson. So I realized I'm so good in selling, talking to people. So I call this guy and I come to his office and he hires me and he tells me that Sunday he's going to talk to me. This was like middle of the week. He tells me, Sunday, I'm going to talk to you and I'm going to give you a van and you're going to use that van to go out and start doing sales with another guy that's going to teach you. And I said, perfect. As I'm leaving the office, another guy comes in, looks at me, recognizes me, goes back to the office and tells that guy, do not hire him. He's a troublemaker.
Wow.
I call this guy on Sunday. The guy doesn't answer me. I call him on Monday, doesn't answer me. Tuesday, I show up to the office. I said, hey, man, you told me on Sunday. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to call you. I'm going to call you. Give me a few days. Something came up. My apologies. Again, I come back after a few days because he doesn't answer me. End up, he didn't take me to work. And the reason is people talked about me.
Wow.
I speak to another guy. I go to his office. I meet with him. He falls in love with me. Says, I'm going to start next week. Tells the guy who's supposed to train me that he's going to train me. The guy tells him there's no way. I'm not going anywhere with that guy. He's a troublemaker on a whole nother level. I don't want any trouble. I don't want him to work with us. Also doesn't answer me anymore. About 4 people like that until I got a hold of one guy who was in Israel. He went on a trip to Israel and I call him and I tell him, look, I'm homeless. I'm back on the street. I'm homeless. I need a job. And he's like, I'll be back in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, I'll be back and I'll hire you. A few days after that, I call him again. I'm like, yeah, are you for sure going to be back in the next 11 days? He's like, yeah, I told you I am. I'm going to be back. I call him a few days later, and then again a few days later, and he goes to me, hey, buddy, listen to me. I'm on a vacation. Stop calling me. If you're going to call me one more time, I'm not going to hire you.
Wow.
I told him, no, please, I'm really sorry. Now, look, I was a guy who was able to do anything. I could have went and become a gangster. I could have went and did all these other things. I said, no, I'm going to go the right way. So I put my head down and I'm telling this guy that I'm sorry. And I said, please, you just have to understand. That was the first time in that call that I told him that I'm homeless. And he's like, okay, I understand. He's like, are you really homeless? How, you're Israeli? I'm like, yeah, 'cause I just don't want to live with my dad. I don't want to be there. I want to go do things on my own. And I've been here before. I know I could figure things out. Anyways, he comes back and he goes, look, I have a carpet cleaning business, but I want to start doing air conditioning. Have you ever done air conditioning? I said, look, I've never done anything except fighting. But I promise you, wherever you're going to send me, I will figure it out and I will bring home a sale.
Amazing.
And he gave me a van and I was sleeping in the van. And then I was showering at 24-hour Fitness. The first project I go into, I go up to the attic and I see that all the air ducts are made out of asbestos and they're broken and all of that. And I don't know anything. I just went on I don't even remember where, Google or whatever, started to try to learn about it. I didn't know anything about the job.
Yes.
And I call him and I'm like, here's the picture. This is what the attic looks like. He goes, I think that's the best. I go, what? Really? Anyways, I go downstairs. I talk to the clients. I explain to them what it is. I take pictures. I go on Google. I see that it is what we think it is. I call a special company. They come, they do the full inspection. They tell them that it is what it is. And they're releasing asbestos fibers into the house because it's inside of the air ducts.
Yes.
And they're like, we want to change it. And they're like, okay. So they gave me a price and I told them a price, which was double than the price that I got from the other guys. And that's how you do it. In construction, you usually do it times 3, but I didn't know. So I only did times 2. And I made a sale. And they're like, we'll only go with you, Ben. We trust only you. So because I was more of a hard ass kind of gangster guy when I was a younger kid, I said, well, how do I change that? So I put my hair to the side. I shaved my face. I put on fake glasses to look like a nerd. And then I would wear a hat that goes up just to look like a nerd. So people would accept me in their home, Because I was like, nobody wants this badass guy in their home. But truly, I went back to who's the authentic Ben.
Yes.
Not the Ben that the world has recreated. All the shit that I ate from this world. And now it's the new Ben.
Yes.
Who is the real Ben? The authentic Ben. So I brought truly the authentic Ben. And people loved it. So then I managed to start talking to other people and let them know that we have a company. And within 3 months, I was doing more work than the owner. I was doing more work than any employee in that business. I was doing everybody's work at the same time.
Yeah.
And this is one very, very important thing that I learned. When you go and work for a job and think to yourself, this is not my job. So if I told you right now, take this bottle of water from my office and put it in Jessica's office, and you think in your mind, that's not my job, because my job is to fill out paperwork. You, at that point, you're thinking like an employee. You are not thinking like a business person.
I agree.
I never thought this wasn't my job. If the boss wanted coffee, before he could say coffee, coffee was already made.
Mm-hmm.
Before he could say I'd like sugar, sugar was already poured into his cup. Mm-hmm. Before he could sneeze, there was tissues on the table. Because my job was to make him feel the best. Thanks to me, he became a multimillionaire at the time. Mm-hmm. And the reason is because I accommodated all of his needs. Any little thing that he needed. I went and made the sale. Then I talked to all the workers. Then I made sure the job was done. Then I picked up checks. Then I brought the paperwork into the office. Then I typed everything into the computer. Mm-hmm. I would not sleep. And after 3 months, he came up to me and he goes, do you want to be my partner? It was like that. Do you want to be my partner? And I go, well, I have been thinking about it, since day one, that one day me and you are going to be partners, since I love you so much. And I would definitely like to do everything from now on with you. And he goes, I don't know if I could give you 50-50. I said, look, you love to party. You love to hang out with girls. You love to do all these things. I love to work. You could travel to Mexico. You could do whatever you want. This is where I learned never to do business with someone who cheats on his wife.
Wow. Huh.
I learned it from him. And the reason is he had a wife at home and he was cheating on her with all these other women.
Mm.
But when he was cheating on her with all these other women, he was going places. He was going to Vegas. He was going to Mexico, Cancun, this, that. I was taking care of work. I made the business so big just because I wanted to prove to him that I'm worthy. Where did that come from? Well, from the fact that my dad told me I wasn't going to be anything, and all of the teachers. And growing up, everybody said I wasn't going to be anything. So I wanted to prove to him how worthy I am. And that's where the success started.
Yes.
So if you're thinking that's not my job, you're thinking like an employee.
This is so important. So important. But you also made yourself a commodity to him in such a unique way. And this is so important in our times.
He couldn't live without me. And then he started going everywhere and cheating on his wife left and right because I was running the business now. And after a couple of years, I caught him stealing from me. And that's when I left him.
Yes.
And that's where I learned the quote. That's where I came up with the quote. And I said, there's 3 people that I will never do business with, go into business with. One is a man that cheats on his wife. I will never do business with a man who is a godless person who does not truly believe in God, and a beautiful woman. All 3 have hurt me in the past by being my business partners. So I'm not talking about someone working for me. I could have an assistant. She could be the hottest girl in the world. It does not affect me because I treat her like a person. Yeah. I don't care if she's beautiful, if she's not. I don't look at her by her beauty. I just know that if I'm a good-looking man and I have next to me today, where I constantly go around and people know me now, I have next to me a beautiful girl who's my assistant. It just looks better, you know? It just fits the image better. But before, all of my assistants were actually super ugly and super overweight.
Yes.
You know, if you were beautiful, I wouldn't even hire you to be my assistant. But like today, it just fits the image better. And before, when I had a business partner who was a pretty girl, she didn't want to do the work. She was constantly not really thinking about doing work, and she felt like she could get away with it because she's beautiful. And I didn't like that. So she used her beauty to her advantage.
Yes.
Just like some bosses use their position to their advantage, you know, to get with women. And these are also men that I'll never talk to. I've never in my life got along with a man who uses his position of power to get women. You know, I believe in love. So love comes not by forcing anybody or showing them that you're more powerful than them.
Definitely.
So that was my journey into sales. I realized that I'm extremely good at sales. I realized that I'm willing to do anything. I realized that I'm able to work 22 hours, 20 hours a day, sleep for 2 to 4 hours, and go back to work.
Such resilience.
So the more I put in, the more I got out. And the harder I worked, the luckier I got. And that's what truly built that character of, okay, this guy is a hardworking person. And I'm talking to myself. All right, this guy is a hardworking individual. I'm now 21 years old. You know, I caught my business partner cheating on me. He stole from me money. It was before my 21st birthday. And I still went with him on my 21st birthday to Vegas to do my birthday there with him. I didn't tell him that I caught him cheating on me, but then I opened up another company. And when I opened up another company, I moved away from him after I told him that he cheated on me. And I opened up a company and I made it way bigger than his. And then I said to myself, while I was having these companies, I I had a construction company, I had a roofing company, I had a solar company, a air conditioning company, all these companies, insulation company, all these companies, I realized that I'm still dealing with all the Israeli people because they all own the business. So one guy's trying to like steal my salesperson, another guy's trying to steal my worker, another guy's trying to talk to my assistant, so she's going to work with him. You know, he's like, come, I'll pay you a little bit more money. I was like, how do I raise the bar? How do I level up to a point where I don't deal with these things anymore? I don't want to deal with these people anymore. I want to completely move away from them. So then I went into developing houses. But I was like, even developing houses, I'm still dealing with some Israelis. How do I move away from that too? And I started thinking, how can I invent something that 1 million people need and become rich overnight? So being a multimillionaire just means that you have more than $2 million, right? Because it's multi-millionaire. So you have more than a couple of $1 million. And I got to a couple $1 million by the time I was like 19 and a half. By the time I was 21, I was already worth about $7-8 million. But by the time I was 24, that's when I like clocked out. You know, I invented a product. I had a couple of buddies that were in that field and told me, Ben, you know what? You bring it to us, we'll be able to do something with it. They showed it around. I patented it. They showed it around. It was a provisionally patent, which means you have a patent for a year. And nobody can patent it before you do an actual patent itself. That patents for like 25 years. So when I did the provisionally patent, I was showing it around, and I had a very large company buy the product. And not just buy the product, they took it and said, well, we invented it. You could literally not even speak about it. This is our invention. If I ever do speak about who bought it and what they purchased, then I pretty much have to give them all the money back. That was the agreement with them. I split it with 2 of my buddies, and we all retired. Like all 3 of us pretty much didn't need to do anything ever again. And me being a generous guy, I went, 33% to each person. But I was like, it's enough money that I don't need to do anything ever again. For me, all I wanted was freedom. Yeah. People think that having $1 billion is what's going to get you to be happy. Actually not. It's having real freedom. And freedom comes in many different forms. One true freedom is not caring what people think. So that way, nobody has control over your emotions. Another form of freedom is not having to wake up in the morning and be told by somebody what you have to do today. Another form of freedom is not having to either work on your business or in your business or be the business or have a business. I could wake up, I go to the gym, I could eat whatever I want to eat, I could travel the world, I could fly, I could have any woman that I want, I could take my family on vacations, I could have a beautiful house, beautiful cars. So the Lambo behind you, I had that Lambo. I had many different Lambos. I had Rolls Royce. I had all the nice things. And then a year ago, I was just bored. And by the way, when I was 24 and I decided I was going to retire, I was doing nothing, literally nothing. But then I felt so bored. I said, okay, I have to start doing something. You can't just quit. As a man, I realized that at that time, that no matter what, you're always growing. And if you're not growing, you're truly dying, like they say. But you truly constantly have to create growth. I don't know, I can't speak for women, but I know that a woman's most important thing is having a family and having kids. And, you guys can do the things that we can't do.
Yes.
You guys weren't born here to do what we could do. You were born here to do what we can't do. And there's so many things that you guys could do that we can't do. Not just having a child. There's many other things, but people don't really speak about that. But for us as men, our only way, I could speak for myself and the people who I've talked to, the only way that you feel truly important is, one, if you're constantly growing, Two, if you're taking care of people, you
Absolutely.
do not feel like a real man if you're not taking care of people.
Hmm.
I literally need to baby people. I have that inside of me. If I have a girlfriend, I need to baby her. It's funny. I like to cook for her. I like to organize the house. Although I have a maid, I also like to organize the house. After my maid is done, I'm like, oh, she missed a spot here. She missed a spot there. I started doing those little spots. My ex-girlfriend was like, no, let me do it. I'm like, no, 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 honey, it's okay. I'll bring her coffee to bed. It's almost like I have to take care of somebody. And I truly don't know where it came from. But anytime I was with somebody, the biggest thing for me was taking care of them. And it's the same with my mother. My mother and I, most of the time, live in the same home together.
Yes.
And I take care of my mom. But there's only a few ways that I could take care of my mom, and it's mostly financially, right? A mom is still a mom, and she wants to take care of you. But I have like this role that I took on me to have to take care of everybody. So if I'm in a group setting of friends, I'm like the dad of the friends. If I'm in a group setting with my family, I'm always like I'm like the adult of the adults.
Got
I
you.
can't explain why.
I love that, Ben. And it's very unique. It's very special. But there was a term that you used, which I thought was quite profound. I haven't heard it before, but I really want people to know a little bit more about this because I think this is rare. You talk about infinite intelligence. Can you elaborate on that? Because I think that is a quality you have. You've run all these different businesses, but it's also when you have that juxtaposition of running your businesses and then still being empathetic and looking after people around you, that's special. But I'd love to touch on this term for people listening.
So infinite intelligence, if anybody out there has read the book Think and Grow Rich,
Yes.
there's on chapter 13, they'll talk about infinite intelligence. Now, it was something that I was doing way before I read the book, but then I realized that there is people out there that know how to create infinite intelligence just like me. You have somebody like Elon Musk, for instance. Take him, for example, the guy does not stop. Why? Why doesn't he stop? Some people have inside of them something called a burning desire. And when you want to achieve something in life, any man that you take in history and in time, no matter what you see around you, it was created by a man. And the reason it was created by that man is because that man wanted to achieve a certain level to receive the best woman. And that's where true infinite intelligence comes from. So you have a creator, and the creator created us. In us, he created creativity. The most creative creature in the world is the man. He created men first, then he created a woman. But he created a woman to be of help of the men. But he left all the hard work to the men. So when you look at the car behind you, when you look at the microphone, your desk, your house, it was all built by a man. Why do men strive to invent all of these things when, if you look back, God provided us water, land, trees, air? What did he provide to us that out of nowhere the man said, I will create a computer, I will create an iPhone that you'll be able to see me, and you're in Australia and I'm in LA. I'm going to create electricity. Where did it come from? How did they think about creating metal and in different colors and different forms and different shapes? It all came from a man wanting to show that he's capable of something that no one else is capable of. So he'll be able to achieve a certain level that will bring him the best women. So in Think and Grow Rich, they speak about 1, if you have faith. 2, if you're connected with love.
Yes.
So love is a very, very strong emotion. It's an extremely strong emotion. When someone is in love, he could do anything for that person. He could go to distance. I could walk from here to Italy to see the woman that I love. Why? How do we get all this infinite intelligence? It's because we have a program in our mind, and it's called a subconscious mind. 95% of the day, we operate from the subconscious mind. 5% of the day, we operate from the conscious mind. When we're in love, it actually reverses. And 95% of the day, we operate from the conscious mind. And 5% of the day, we operate from the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is something that's able to take you to the next place. The reason the subconscious mind is so powerful when you're not in love, you can get conscious of something and start to think about it. And then there's something that's called mind wandering, where you start thinking about other things. So if I put faith, love, and sex, create emotions towards something that I truly desire, I will create infinite intelligence. So it's almost like I'm bonding myself to it. Everything that you see here right now, and I say this quote, I say, only he who can see the invisible can do the impossible. So everything you see in front of you at the moment is the translation of the mind. But someone saw it before they brought it to the physical world and made it into reality. We all have a vision. The vision is our end goal, right? You have a vision of where you're going to be. Now that vision is what God gifted you to see where you could be. What God doesn't give you is the plan. The plan is the process of what it's going to take to get to the vision that he showed you. But every single person in the world has a dream, and that dream is the vision. Some people are not willing to go through the process to get to the vision that God gave them, but some people are. But when you don't know what the process is, you go with faith. And that's why you need to have faith, because if you knew what was coming tomorrow, you wouldn't need faith. Now, for the people who are strong believers and they have faith and they have love for it, give it emotions, and have like a sexual desire for whatever it is that they want to have, then they go through the process. And sometimes the process is very difficult. Because when Moses knew that the vision was taking the Jews out of Egypt, right? Moses saw a vision of him taking people out of Egypt. That's the vision that God gave him. He didn't tell him that he was going to have to battle with his brother Pharaoh and kill his oldest son, and all the oldest boys are going to die in Egypt, and that Pharaoh was going to be drowned inside of the water when the water was going to split in half, and he was going to go through all this mess, and he was going to sit in Mount Sinai for 40 years before he gets the 10 Commandments, and then he's going to die before he even reaches Israel. He would have told him, forget it, I'm not taking them out. I'm not going. I'll sit right here, I'm good. I'm the Pharaoh's brother. I have the best life. Why would I go through that? But God gives you that vision, that's your dream. He's not going to tell you what the process is. He's not going to tell you the plan to get there.
Yes.
But if you take that dream and create the burning desire for it, and you say, no matter what, I'm going to go towards it, you will create infinite intelligence. Because remember, we are spiritual beings, spiritual creatures living in a physical body. We could connect to a different world. And we do that every night when we go to bed. Let me ask you this. Right now, are you alive or are you dead?
Once in life, we go out there and we get it.